So welcome back to another rebuild here on NBA 2K25 Next Gen. In today's video, we are back with another episode of our Curry Era Rebuild series, and today it's going to be the Washington Wizards. I have a lot of fond memories of these Wizards teams. Now, I'm not a Washington Wizards fan, I'm a Celtics fan, but I think back to some of the great battles that those two teams had. This year was a Wizards team that ended up going 49-33. They were the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. They beat the Atlanta Hawks in round 1 in 6 games, then lost to the Celtics in round 2 in 7. So, the John Wall and Bradley Beal duo to me was always one of the more underrated pairings in all of basketball. Now, unfortunately, they were never really able to get over the hump. They didn't have a ton of talent surrounding them, and they were never really a serious contender. But our goal today is to put a few more pieces around them, hopefully get this team in City a championship. As always, let me know any other video ideas down below in the comment section. I've been really enjoying the Curry Era rebuilds. I've been really enjoying some of the trading every player rebuilds, the challenges, all that fun stuff. And again, I know I mentioned this in yesterday's video, but we are eventually going to run out of teams for these two series that we're doing right now. So whether it's a different historic era that you guys want to see or just another series idea that may pop into your head, let me hear it all down below in the comment section. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys got for me. So I'm excited for this one today. Of course, we are using a custom roster because John Wall is not in 2K, and I am very much hoping that we can get him that championship that he unfortunately never won. So let's get into it. And as of course we have done many times, we now find ourselves at the start of the 2016-2017 NBA campaign. So we are here with the Wizards, obviously excited to have them here today. I know many of you have been asking for this team for a very long time. And the reason I have been kind of intentionally pushing it off and delaying it is because I obviously had to find myself a custom roster. So I was able to use John Wall because what's the point of doing a Wizards rebuild without John Wall? So let's get into it. Let's talk about this team. There is certainly some talent here. There is some nice depth. And this is a team that I think is already on a really, really good trajectory. So we have some work to do, no doubt, but I think the blueprint in the groundwork has already been done for us. Now, starting out here at this point guard spot, John Wall, who I believe came in 7th in MVP voting this season. He's 26 years old at this point. He's a 92 overall. Part of me thinks back and says to myself, how did John Wall's prime not last longer, right? We think of, his Wizards years just so fondly, and honestly, in my opinion, was one of the more underrated players in the league at that time. I feel like he obviously got the hype and the publicity, just never really felt like people put him in conversations that he deserved to be in. So I miss John Wall's prime. He was a ton of fun to watch when he was healthy, and ultimately it's sad not to see him playing basketball anymore. It really is. So he's a 92 overall right now. We obviously have a star on this team, a face of the franchise. He's going to be the guy we're building around here in today's video. Now behind him, of course, Bo Curry, auto-generated 2K created player. Now he will likely not be seeing the floor at any point here today. Even though it's a custom roster, it's obviously not still perfect. It's better than what 2K puts out there, but it definitely still needs some work. So we will certainly go ahead and find a backup point guard before year 1 kicks off. Now we head over to the shooting guard spot. A decent amount of depth here. We have 3 viable options already at this 2-guard position. Now, Bradley Beal is only 23 here. He's an 87 overall. I wouldn't say this was the best form or the best version of Bradley Beal. I think we're still about 2 or 3 years away from that. Of course, everybody today thinks of Bradley Beal as just a really bad contract that's kind of killing that Suns team. And of course, the Phoenix Suns regret making that trade with the Washington Wizards, but this version of Bradley Beal was a lot different. He was elite. He was widely considered one of the best guards in basketball. And I really do believe today, especially at only 23 years old, he's going to continue to develop and be a star for us. Now we have Kelly Oubre behind him, who is only 20 at this point. A lot of room for Kelly Oubre to get better here today. I have zero plans of moving on from him. In all likelihood, he will be a backup 6th, 7th man on this team for all 3 seasons. We got Danielle House Jr. behind him as well. He's only 23. I'm not really sure how much more potential there is out of him. He never turns into a really, really high quality role player in the league. Ended up having a couple good years with Houston, I believe, but honestly, a 75 probably feels like it's about as good as it's going to get for him. And of course, we do have some auto-generated players behind him. This $51 million contract from something named Roger Stewart will certainly be getting changed. Now we head over to the small forward spot. Otto Porter, who I think was really underrated for some seasons in Washington. Now, of course, he ended up, I believe, winning a championship with Golden State back in 2022, but he's only 23 here, and if my memory is serving me correctly, he develops really, really well in this game and in this scenario. So, all likelihood, he'll end up being our small forward the entire time. You got Marcus Thornton behind him, who's 29 at this point. It looks like that is a created version of Marcus Thornton now. Not exactly sure what we're going to do with him, but we'll certainly sort that one out. Yeah, Wayne Terry behind them. The power forward spot, you got Markieff Morris, who has been, in all honesty, I don't think Markieff Morris gets enough credit for being as good of a veteran NBA player as he really ended up being. Now here in 2K, 82 overall, 27 years old, 3 years, $24 million. I like all that. Is he going to be good enough as a starting power forward on a championship team? I can't answer that question. It's possible. It might not be probable, but we'll figure it out as the years do go on. And then finally, Mr. Marcin Gortat. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Gortat screen. It was a move that I would say really, again, like a lot of things on this Wizards teams, really didn't get enough credit when it was happening. Of course, players still do it today in the NBA. It's a very popular move, but Marcin Gortat, when he was doing this, it really didn't feel like anybody was giving him a lot of credit for it. Of course, now they do. It's called the fucking Gortat screen, but we'll sort it out. He's 32. He's probably still a pretty viable option here for us, but he's probably not a 3-year starting solution. Behind him, we got Ian Mahinmi. I absolutely hate this contract. I literally remember this contract when I was loading up like 2K17. I'm not a fan of it. I'm never going to be a fan of it. I never was a fan of it, and we'll certainly be looking to move on at some point. We also got Jason Smith here as kind of just a depth piece at this center spot. So, as I mentioned, we have a decent amount of depth with this group. I'm not seeing many major errors with this roster, anything that's really jumping out at me like crazy in terms of bad overalls or really poor contracts or anything like that. So we will definitely have some moves to make before we kick off year one. The Golden State Warriors are willing to trade me Kevon Looney for Jason Smith, somebody named Rick Bird, and 2 future second-round picks. This feels like a pretty good value deal. Kevon Looney is still only 20 years old, and he would, clearly be a better backup power forward option than what we're working with right now, which would be nothing, by the way. So we're going to swing this deal here with Golden State. Again, I know I've gotten Looney in the past. I try not to be too repetitive in these videos, but given the roster situations for a lot of these teams, I don't really have a ton of options. But it's been a minute since we've gotten Looney. He's going to take over behind Morris. And then our final move here before we kick off year one is going to be signing 30-year-old Mario Chalmers out of free agency. Now, he's a 74 overall, and while I don't love signing free agents, just as depth pieces, we really didn't have a lot of other options considering the talent and the depth on this roster. So Chalmers ultimately isn't a, plug-and-play guy as a starter, but for 10, 12 minutes a night is backing up John Wall, I think it'll be more than serviceable for at least one season. So we're bringing him in. He's going to end up being the backup at the point guard spot, and I think that is it for a 10-man rotation. Now, I intentionally decided against something. You'll see what it is in just a second. So it's going to be Wall and Chalmers, Beal, and then I'm playing house actually behind Beal. The reason for keeping him at the backup 2-guard spot is just because the multi-year deal. And 23 years old, again, there's a little bit of room for growth there. I don't know how much better he will get, but we'll certainly keep an eye on it. I moved Kelly Oubre to the 3. He actually jumped up like 3 overalls as well, so he'll be behind Otto Porter, likely in a 6th-man capacity. And then I intentionally did not trade Marcus Thornton. Now, Marcus Thornton is not going to play right now for us, but he could be a tradable asset come off-season time. If he was an expiring deal, I certainly could have looked to flip him for a backup point guard, but we decided against it given his contract. And then we got Morris, we got Looney, and then finally it's going to be Gortat and the dreadful contract of Ian Mahinmi. So that's where we're at for now. Something else I did notice is we don't currently own our own first-round pick. Now, I'm not really sure who has it. It's pretty hard to trace back what happened to draft picks in real life on the internet, but I can certainly give it a go, and maybe there's a protection on it, but I have a feeling it won't matter too much. I think we'll be pretty good. So let's go ahead and set that rotation. Here's how things ended up shaking out for year one here in DC. Now, not really any surprises in the starting 5, at least I highly doubt it. It is going to be John Wall and Bradley Beal here in our backcourt. Otto Porter at the 3, Markieff Morris at the 4, and finally Mr. Marcin Gortat repping our center spot. Now, the bench unit, I wouldn't say it's elite. I would say it's better than what we started out the video with, but again, that wasn't super hard to beat. So, Oubre playing 24 minutes a night as my 6th man. You got Ian Mahinmi behind him. Donnell House Jr. as the backup 2-guard. You got Mario Chalmers, of course, backing up John Wall. And finally, Kevon Looney rounding it out at the backup power forward spot. So, this is going to be a pretty good team for year one. Again, probably, I don't want to say one of the best teams that we start out with, but it is certainly in the upper echelon of NBA teams. So I'm hoping John Wall and Bradley Beal can kind of carry this team pretty hard, hopefully to be a top 3 seed. Maybe we make a little bit of noise in the Eastern Conference playoffs. So I'll see you guys at the end of year one. Before year one kicked off, we had a pretty big hope, and we were really just thinking maybe a possibility that John Wall and Bradley Beal could carry this team to a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. Now, in real life, this team won 49 games. Here in 2K in year one, we won 64, which I certainly did not see coming. Maybe it's going to be one of those days that 2K is going to bless me and be pretty nice to me. They don't come super often, but when they do, I'm always appreciative. Now, we got to see how the playoffs go before we get ahead of ourselves. A 35.5-point triple-double gives Russell Westbrook an MVP award. I mean, just insane numbers. And I'm not going to go in too much on it, but I think I think people forget how good Russell Westbrook was at one point. And I'm not saying he's washed. He's been fantastic for Denver this season. But I really just genuinely do not believe, like when people go back in 15 or 20 years and look at the numbers that Russell Westbrook put up, especially in that MVP season, people are going to be blown away. And it feels like people kind of just forgot how good Russell was at one point. Just wanted to say. Simmons, your rookie of the year. Lou Willie, your sixth man of the year. AD is your DPOY. Jokic wins most improved. And our guy, Mr. Scott Brooks, leading us to 64 wins. Did not, again, necessarily anticipate that was going to be the case. Here in year one, 64 wins is feels like a year three kind of record. But nope, year one, it is going to be how we finish. So we're the one seed here in the East. Again, at this point in time, the Eastern Conference was solely owned by a man named LeBron James. And then he decided to take his talents to Los Angeles. And, of course, the East opened up a little bit. So we tied with the Spurs for the best record in the league. And, of course, the Golden State Warriors, who probably will still end up winning the damn thing, are very much in the mix. Now, John Wall, about 24 points a game, about 7.5 rebounds, 9 assists. I mean, just an insane year out of him. Very well-rounded point guard and really the guy that is most responsible for this very successful first regular season. Now, Bradley Beal was a really solid second option. You got Otto Porter, Markieff Morris, Kelly Oubre, Gortat, Chalmers, Donnell House, Mahimi, and then Looney. Now, the rebounding department is going to be led by Gortat, and assists is going to be John Wall. Okay, Miami here in round one. This was a dark-ish era in Miami Heat history. Dwayne Wade was gone at this point. He was, I believe, in Chicago, if my memory is serving me correctly. In the big three of Goran Dragic, actually it's a big two because Chris Bosh, if my, again, memory serving me correctly, he didn't play this season and then he retired due to blood clots. I think. I might be making that up. But this was not a competitive Miami Heat team. Of course, Jimmy Butler eventually came along and helped them quite a bit. But here today, I think this should be a pretty, well, maybe not an easy for, really? 2K. Thank you. We do win, but it goes to 7, which is not necessarily the most inspiring sign, I would say. We're moving on to the Celtics here in round two. Of course, these two teams actually did battle in round two. I mean, I can remember it like it was yesterday. I remember where I was sitting watching the majority of this series. It was a ton of fun, and honestly, part of me misses these days, but part of me is like, hey, look at my Celtics now. But no, this was a fun team. The prime of Isaiah Thomas was too short. The prime of John Wall was too short. And those were really kind of two of my favorite point guards when I was growing up. So we are currently down 2-1 against Boston. Make that 3-1. We do win game 6, and then oh no, that was game 5, and then we lose game 6. Disappointing ending to what was overall wise a really positive season. The Spurs, they go on to win it all, and Kawhi Leonard, he is your finals MVP. They beat the Toronto Raptors, the team he eventually went on to lead to a championship themselves. Okay, player retirements. You got Vince Carter, Jason Terry, Muhammad, Meta World Peace, Miller, Brand. A lot of names there. We are going to have to make some decisions. Now, this is a team that had a fantastic regular season and unfortunately ended up coming up pretty short in the playoffs, to say the least. So we'll send through the lottery real quick. Nothing for us in here. This is the 2017 draft with, Tatum, Bam Adebayo. You got a lot of names in there. We are going to hang on to Scott Brooks for now. Although it's always tough when you win 64 games, you're a 1 seed to lose in the second round. I don't think he's done anything quite yet to deserve to be fired. And again, if the ratings sucked, maybe that's a different case, but they are pretty good. Okay, we approached the 2017 draft. As I mentioned before we started simming year one, we don't have our draft pick. I am just curious if I can find it rather quickly who has it. I'm not going to take it back or anything. I'm just trying to see who has it so I can maybe go back and try to remember just off the top of my head what deal or what trade that would have been from. But I'm not seeing it. I probably missed it, to be honest with you. No, it's actually the Nets. You know what I think this is? You know what deal this is? We actually I think we're supposed to have this pick. Because this might be before I do the videos, I go on Basketball Reference and I look at the players in the roster to try to see if it matches up as correctly as it possibly can. And something that I noticed is that the Wizards had Bojan Bogdanovic on the team this season, and that was actually because it was a mid-season acquisition. I'm assuming this draft pick was probably in that trade. Now, I don't know that for a fact. I'm not going to go ahead and just take the pick back. Of course, in this scenario, we didn't trade for Bojan mid-season, so hypothetically, we would not have given up our first-round pick, but it's fine. Number 29 overall. If anything, it makes the video a little bit more challenging, maybe a little bit more enjoyable to watch. I don't really know. Team player options. Kelly Oubre, Kevon Looney will both certainly be brought back here. We look at qualifying offers. Otto Porter, who was pretty solid for us this season, is certainly somebody I'd like to retain him. And actually, no, not Bo Curry. So Otto Porter's restricted. Only wants $16.5 million annually. feels like a pretty big steal for us considering how he does end up developing and playing throughout these 3 years. So we're going to extend him 5 years. He's an 85 overall. That's cool with me. And I think I have a hard decision to make right now that might not end up being a super popular one, unfortunately. We're going to hit up the Los Angeles Clippers and see if we can maybe make a little bit of an upgrade at our center spot. Now, I understand that Marcin Gortat was likely a fan favorite in DC for a long time, and I really believe he was very underrated during his time in the NBA, but unfortunately, he's 33 years old, and while his numbers last year certainly aren't terrible, it's probably not going to get any better throughout the next 2 years of this rebuild. So if we can flip him for a guy like DeAndre Jordan, who is an 87, a significant upgrade, I would pretty much do that 10 times out of 10. Now, DJ is expiring. Maybe that makes it a little bit easier to trade for him. And if I'm being completely honest with you, I have already tried to trade for 3 other centers. It was Al Horford, did not happen. It was Hassan Whiteside, did not happen. And it was Rudy Gobert. Was not happening. So DJ was kind of the next logical guy to go after. They're not going to take this. They want Anthony Swift for, I would say God knows what reason, but that actually almost feels a little bit too generous. So take him. Fine by me. I don't have to give up a single draft pick. Again, feels like an absolute home run, even though the guy is expiring. So my next order of business is to find a way to move off the Jan Mahimi contract. Now, from the grand scheme of things, he's not a terrible player. He's not like a 68 overall making $48 million over the next 3 seasons, but I have a feeling that his contract specifically could hold me up next offseason if I am in a position that I need to make a big move. So I'm not just going to salary dump him because relatively speaking, he is a valuable player, but given the money he's making, he's a whole lot less valuable. But again, I'm not just going to give the man up for nothing because I do think he could be relatively important throughout this video. Now, I would do the deal for Zubac, no questions asked. I have no idea why the Lakers are willing to do this, but I just trade for Zubac way too much in these videos, so I'm probably going to pass on that for now. Bismack Biyombo, kind of a similar boat. And again, I could just move him next offseason. It wouldn't be the end of the world. I just got Austin Rivers just had Austin Rivers in a video the other day. So, we'll pass on it for now. Again, maybe it'll come back and bite me in the ass next offseason, but I don't really see it for now. What I would be interested in doing is maybe upgrading my point guard spot. Now, I think there are some names here that I definitely could be interested in. Darren Williams is just a little old for me at 33. The overall is not terrible. I got Patty Mills in a video the other day. Michael Carter-Williams feels logical, but I know he regresses. Brandon Jennings. Maybe if I had Jason Tatum on this team, he'd be interested in coming over. Lord knows Brandon Jennings loves to run his mouth these days. All right, maybe I'll just hang on to Chalmers for one more season, and we'll just assess the backup point guard spot next offseason. That's fine. I don't really think Chalmers is going to see any significant regression. Again, he's 31, so he's closer to the end than to the beginning, but 1 year deal, it's not the end of the world. So that's actually going to be it for the moves. We don't have any really notable expiring contracts. Obviously DJ. But outside of that, it's just Chalmers. So I'll just see you guys at the start of year 2. So last year we had a really great regular season, and then it all kind of crashed and burned as soon as we got to the Celtics in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Now, this offseason we did make a pretty major upgrade. I don't think anybody is going to sit here and deny that DeAndre Jordan is a better player than Marcin Gortat. That's really not up for debate. In terms of the depth moves and the bench, we didn't really do a lot. We kind of just kept the majority of it intact. We do have some younger players that are hopefully going to continue to progress and kind of take leaps and bounds, but there wasn't a lot done this offseason is what I'm really trying to say. Now, the starting 5 is obviously really, really talented. It's John Wall, Bradley Beal, Otto Porter, Markieff Morris, and now DeAndre Jordan. Bench unit will still be led by Kelly Oubre Jr., Jan Mahimi, Donnell House Jr., Kevon Looney, and finally, Mr. Mario Chalmers. So I think we're at a point where, again, we're going to win a whole lot of games in the regular season, and then it's just going to be, are we good enough and experienced enough come postseason time? So I don't know the answer to that question. I sure as shit hope it's yes. We'll find out together at the end of year 2. It was about as perfect of a regular season as you can have. Not only does John Wall lead us to 74-8, but he wins the MVP award. I didn't see this one coming. Again, I think this was kind of the same thing as yesterday's video. I've had some really, really good teams in 2K, not only throughout my years, but just in 2K25 alone, and they haven't even sniffed 74 wins. But nope, John Wall, Bradley Beal, DeAndre Jordan. Not to say we suck. We certainly don't suck. We're definitely one of the best teams in the league, but 74 wins good? I think 2K is a little too generous with that. But John Wall was fantastic for us, leading us to a historic regular season. Lonzo Ball, your Rookie of the Year. He's in Detroit. Zebo is your 6th Man of the Year. Draymond is your DPOY. Simmons wins the Most Improved. And Scott Brooks, 74 wins. He's your Coach of the Year. So, it's not exactly the same story as last year, but We're the 1 seed. We had a really great regular season, and I'm still not 100% convinced we're like a lock to really go super far in the playoffs. So we'll figure it out. Bradley Beal, he is your MVP, point leader for us. I was getting ahead of myself in my thought. I've probably asked this question before, and I'm sure somebody knows off the top of their head, like maybe Steve Nash. But when was the last time somebody won an MVP award and didn't lead their team in scoring? You know, in modern day basketball, it feels almost impossible, but maybe Steve Nash. I'm trying to think of like maybe like a defensive MVP, but like, I don't know. Otto Porter, Markieff Morris, Kelly Oubre, DJ, House, Mahimi, Looney, and then Chalmers. Rebounds going to be DJ. Assists is Wall at 10 a game. All right, it is us in New York here in the first round. Rajon Rondo, interesting to note, something I'm sure if you have watched one of these rebuild videos in this series recently, you probably are aware that Derrick Rose in this shared scenario in this user-created roster is actually prime MVP Derrick Rose, and he was in New York, so it looks like they did not re-sign him, but they're still a pretty decent team here. They with Carmelo, Tingus Pingus, and obviously Mr. Rondo at the point guard spot, or Chris Paul, as some would say. We're up 3-0 right now, and we end up sweeping them. Much easier than last year because we obviously went to 7 in round 1. Now moving on to Toronto here in round 2. This team won the East. I am certainly not going to downplay them. They've also added Joakim Noah and did not lose Valanciunas, so I'm not really sure who they traded to get Noah, but they did. They found a way, and I'm hoping we can beat them. We do lose Game 3 on the road and Game 4. We go up 3-2, and we are now in the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in this video. We are taking on the Celtics. They beat us last year. That is not my favorite team to face. I don't think any Wizards fans think back on like the mid-2010s very fondly of the Celtics, and I honestly don't blame you. It felt like everything went the Celtics' way in the majority of these series. I'm hoping this can be the time for a little revenge. We are now down 2-1. We do tie it up at 2-2. We go up 3-2, and we end up winning 3 straight games and advancing to our first NBA Finals this video. Now, we are taking on the Los Angeles Clippers, Chris Paul, JJ Redick, Paul Pierce, Blake Griffin, and an old friend, Marcin Gortat, who actually ended up playing with the Clippers, funny enough. Now, DJ never played with the Wizards, but I don't know. Like, seeing Gortat in a Clippers jersey didn't blow me away. This team is good, and, I'm almost kind of shooting myself in the foot because if I did not use the user-created roster that had John Wall in it, they also wouldn't have Blake Griffin here with the Clippers, but kind of a double-edged sword there because I probably wouldn't be here without John Wall. Let's see what ends up happening here in our first finals of today's video. We are currently up 2-1, make that 3-1, and as we head back to DC, we have a chance to close it out on our home floor. Now, I'd like to get that done. I do not want to stress about having to go back to Los Angeles and potentially blowing a 3-1 lead. All right. Should be enough. I'll see you in there. Just under 3 minutes to go here. We are currently up 9 in a closeout Game 5 of the NBA Finals for us on our home floor. I am really, really hoping that we can just kind of keep things in check and not blow this. I'm sure many of you are aware if you've watched my videos from time to time, I suck at this game. I am not good at the gameplay part. I'm decent at the rebuilding part. What the fuck was... I didn't swipe. Okay, it wasn't me. It was DJ. I'm pretty decent at the rebuilding part. The gameplay aspect, I've been making these videos for what? God, have I been making these? This is my 8th 2K. Holy shit, I gotta retire. I've never gotten better at gameplay. I likely will never get better at gameplay, and that's fine. It's just not my strength. But I know you guys enjoy it, so I do it. Because, shit, that was tough. Okay, 8 points, 2:35 on the clock. We are in the driver's seat right now, but of course we know things can change very, very quickly in these videos. Because we've seen it before. We have seen my dumb ass blow leads that I would say are of epic proportions. John Wall gets fouled. Wow, that's a bit of a bailout right there. But it ends up happening. All right, John Wall to the free throw line, which should be pretty much 100%. Now, I hate this shot meter. I'd honestly like to know, for those of you who have 2K25 and have had it since it came out in September, or, well, not even really since then, but have had it for a decent amount of time now, how do you feel about the shot meter? I feel like they fuck this thing up every year. Take me back to like 2K16. There was nothing wrong with the old shot meters. I mean, nothing wrong with them. They just fix shit to say they changed something. And 9 times out of 10, it ends up sucking. And I don't really know why they have to do it. Like, there's a lot of issues with this game, but some of the old shot meters were certainly not one of them. There are much bigger problems in this game than that stupid shot meter. But that's 2K for you. Don't ever listen to much fan feedback. John Wall just getting downhill on CP3. Cannot get the layup to go. we're still in control here. We are up 10, now under 2 minutes. Geriatric Paul Pierce at the three-point line. Chris Paul going to blow right by me. That's a foul. That is not a smart foul. I switched on to Beal, and I got him. Okay. I think we'll do one more offensive possession after this. We're pretty much 100% good. I don't think the math is even close to on the Clippers side right now, right? It makes a lot of sense for us to kind of just keep trading buckets. If the Clippers are willing to do that and they don't want to play the best defense in the world, totally fine by me. But we'll try to get one more possession here. Again, I want the ball in John Wall's hands just because I think it is smart in situations like this to give the basketball to your best player, especially when he's a point guard. But we're going to try to waste clock, but you want to waste it with purpose. So I'm going to try to run a little screen here. I wish it was with DJ, but it's going to be with Morris. Get downhill, kick it over to Morris, and then just easy layup. This one's over. A historic and dominant year for us here in DC has come to an end. 74 wins in the regular season. We end up winning the NBA Finals in 5 games, and something that I really wish had happened at one point in real life is John Wall, and he gets a Finals MVP here. So that was awesome. That was fantastic. Honestly, I didn't know if we had enough kind of entering year number 2, and clearly we did because we won a championship and had the best record in the history of basketball. But I think we're at a point now where I might make a move or two. I don't think there's going to be anything drastic. That would be pretty stupid to make some crazy big move, especially when pretty much our entire team is under contract. Now, obviously, you have to go out and re-sign DJ, and that's certainly something I will look to do. So we have the 30th overall pick in round 1 and round 2. I will go ahead and move my second just because I don't really think it's needed. Seriously. This game makes it so challenging sometimes to trade second-round picks. Like, I obviously am not interested in keeping these picks. I don't really need these. They don't really do anything for me. You know what? Just fine. Totally cool. I will draft somebody at number 30. Again, they're not going to be a star or anything like that, but we'll just get somebody who's a real NBA player. Like, honestly, Duncan Robinson's fine. I see the Anthony Melton there as well. There's certainly some quality NBA players here with, like, a Grayson Allen, who, by the way, I think is a world-class scumbag. But we're going to go ahead and take Robinson here, who, I don't know, probably not going to play. Let's be honest with each other. But he's a 70. So DJ declines his player option, kind of as expected. He is going to enter unrestricted free agency, and hopefully we can just pay him and not have to stress about this too much. Okay, cool, good, same page. I think the only move we'll likely end up making is just finding ourselves a new backup point guard. Chalmers was fine for a season and really did his... Okay, you know what? Maybe we're just bringing back Mario because the rest of this list is pretty tragic. And honestly, I'd bring in Brandon Jennings, given his age, especially if it was like 2 weeks ago, but he wants to run his mouth about my favorite NBA player. So fuck you, Brandon Jennings. I could also consider some trades. I have some draft picks, but I don't really feel like anything is super necessary here. I mean, what would I realistically do? Like, unless I move like Jan Mahimi. Like, is there a point guard out there for Jan Mahimi, making Jan Mahimi money, which is not exactly easy to kind of match up. The fact that the Lakers are still willing to do this is so fucking beyond me. It's not even funny. Oh, man. Oh, boy. No, there's nothing really here. We'll just hang on to Mahimi. It is what it is. I guess I could consider some Duncan Robinson trades, but nobody's making $2 million. It's going to be super valuable. I don't think so anyways. Wait, let me just look. Point guards. Again, going to be probably the shortest list in the world, and there's probably not going to be any options besides free agents, but let me just make sure. Well, DeJounte Murray's sitting here. I mean, you're not getting housed, but I will give you any draft picks you want because it's the final season. All right. DeJounte Murray is fine by me. These draft picks are unfortunately not super valuable, but they gets it done with 3. All right, that is going to be it for moves. This team is basically locked in almost as the same it was last year, and I'll see you guys at the start of the final regular season. Fresh off one of, if not the greatest season in NBA history, we are back, and we are looking to go back-to-back. This team really didn't change very much at all. There was one change, and it's our backup point guard. And honestly, if it ain't broke, why the hell would I try to fix it? So, starting 5 remains exactly the same. John Wall, Bradley Beal, Otto Porter, Markieff Morris, and DeAndre Jordan. Bench unit will be led by Kelly Oubre Jr. Now added DeJounte Murray. Got Kevon Looney in here, Donnell House Jr., and finally Jan Mahimi, who we are seeing a bit of regression with. And honestly, I don't really think because he's maintained his overall that he is deserving of the contract he's on. I don't give a shit what your overall is. If you're putting up 5 and 5.5, you're not worth $17 million annually or whatever the godforsaken deal is. But he'll be playing 10 minutes a night, so I don't expect much out of you, champ. I'll see you guys at the end of year number 3. It is back-to-back for us in at least one department. That would be John Wall winning his second straight MVP award. Now, we did not set an NBA record for wins, but 72-10 is still really damn good. And John Wall was absolutely fantastic. 0.1 assists off of averaging a double-double for the second straight season as well. That sucks. Now, Luka, he is in Atlanta. What really could have been. I wonder about that sometimes. Like, obviously, Dallas, thought that Luka Doncic was the best player in the draft. I think that kind of, maybe not the best player in the draft. Everybody, I don't want to say everybody. I'm getting ahead of myself and I'm going off topic again, and I have a really bad track record of doing this. But obviously, Dallas thought that Luka Doncic was better than Trae Young. Both teams agreed to the deal. I still wonder, and obviously today, if looking back on it, Atlanta would never make that deal. And Luka Doncic would go number 1 overall, obviously. But what do you think Atlanta really thought about Luka when they were making that swap with Trae Young? Because Trae Young was fantastic at Oklahoma. He really was. I don't really think anybody knew enough about Luka Doncic, especially when he was overseas. I don't know. I'm going off topic. Cameron Payne, your 6th man of the year. Kawhi is your D-boy. Also wins most improved, Cameron Payne. And then Scott Brooks. Is that his 3rd straight coach of the year? Pretty insane. Okay, let's see. We are 12 games up on Toronto, and we had the best record in the league. So let's just go over the numbers real quick. Feel free to pause if you would like. Again, this team is easily good enough, and it doesn't really matter who does what, in my opinion, because we are probably going to get back to the finals. At least I'd like to think. Now, this Indiana team is pretty damn good. I don't want to just sit here and dismiss them. How Derek Williams is in that starting 5 is beyond me, but we should be able to beat them pretty easily. Now, Boston. I'll go game by game with them. We're seeing some nice development out of Jaylen Brown. Now, they have lost Isaiah Thomas. Unfortunately, I miss Isaiah every single day, but it is what it is. We are currently up 2-1. Make that 3-1. Make that a gentleman's sweep. Now, moving on to Cleveland, who, honestly, I don't really know how else to describe it, but the word flabbergasted that I have not seen them a single time throughout this video. I know we got bounced relatively early in year number 1, but last year, to not see the king of the Eastern Conference for, 18 years, at least in the East Finals or semifinals, it just kind of felt crazy, right? I mean, we're finally running into them now, and obviously LeBron's the best player in this series, but I don't know. I don't know where the hell they've been this whole time. We win in 5. Now we're moving on to Denver, who are pretty damn good. You got Moutier and Murray in the backcourt, Gallinari, Julius Randle actually here. It's funny, I see Yusuf Nurkic develop quite well in this, user-created roster, which is strange to me because no disrespect to Yusuf Nurkic, he's never even been close to a 91 overall, in real life. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Obviously, players aren't measured by overall in real life, but even with that, these are not 91 overall stats. I want to put that out there. Just putting it out there. This, on the other hand, well, maybe not 94 overall stats, but you understand my point. You get it? All right, I think this team's beatable. Maybe Jokic is the best player of the series. Maybe it's the guy who's won back-to-back MVPs and now back-to-back finals MVPs. So I'll take our guy any day of the week. No, Jokic is pretty good. All right, man, this one was fun. Obviously, it sucked having to push off the Wizards so long. I know Wizards fans don't have a lot going for them these days, and I know they are pretty tragic, and they are certainly on capture the flag watch these days, but, it's fun to think back to a time like this where Wizards basketball was relatively enjoyable. And, yeah, man, I'm always going to think it's not a what if with Wall and Beal because there were, some really good years there. But it just makes me think, what if John Wall could have stayed healthy a little bit longer? What if there wasn't, some beef with the organization? Like, you get my point? Like, I felt like his prime could have lasted longer. Like, he's not like a Derrick Rose what if, but he's like 2 tiers below that almost. So this rebuild in general was super fun. Obviously, there wasn't a ton of moving parts, right? There's never going to be a ton of moving parts when you keep 4 out of 5 starters the entire video, but I know this wasn't the most challenging one, and the teams we are going to be getting to very shortly are significantly worse. So buckle up, as we got some hard ones coming. Whoa, that's not what I meant by that. All right, I'm going to wrap up this video before I say anything else that is really, really stupid, but let me know any other video ideas down below in the comment section. As always, thanks so much for watching. I love you guys. I'll catch you guys all in the next one.